Hi, this is Mark from Faith on Tap. On today's podcast, we'll participate in a thoughtful activity to select 3 words. Some people might think we already think too much about ourselves, but how does Jesus describe us and how does he set us before the Father?
You know, Ephesians talks about we are clothed with the righteousness of Christ. And so when God looks at me, he sees not sinful, broken, in need of Dennis. He sees his son. And so those positive attributes that I see in myself and or other people see in me, I believe are a God-given perspective and a God-given gift that reflects Imago Dei.
And as hard as we may work toward reflecting the attributes of Christ, flawed and interacting with other flawed people, our 3 words don't always seem to show up.
Me as a pastor, sometimes you have to come down on people, call out wrong, and it feels unloving, but yet you're actually doing it for the better or for the good of the person, you know, so there's that tension there.
Yeah.
And once again, we are back to how Jesus sees us and how we reflect him.
I think we as people in general don't look at our positive attributes enough, and we always are considering the things that are broken, the things that we can do better, the things that we failed at. And we end up cursing ourselves. I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. Why did I do that again? Instead of speaking what God sees over us.
It's a tricky thing, these 3 words, but it can be fun, surprising, and ultimately our Imago Dei expression. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. We are at Brewberry Brewery in Middlebury, Connecticut. First time we've been here. Thoughts,
tongue
people?
twister.
It is
Wow.
a little bit of a tongue twister, for sure.
What are your thoughts about this place?
It's quiet.
Very different looks than anything we've been in. It's more like a sports bar.
Yeah, it is. It's nice looking. It's almost a little bit more restaurant-y than brewery almost.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't shy us away from having our brews. I personally had they didn't have any good stouts besides pumpkin stout, and that's not going to happen. I went with a Turn That Frown Upside Brown, a brown ale with a horrible name, but it was a good, standard brown ale. It was fine. You're still wording that title, huh?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Oh, I'm not in love with it
Well,
either.
that's
the
not
name.
your name.
Yeah, yeah.
I felt like it was, though, for a moment.
So, Dennis, your new name is...
Yeah.
Turn that brown frown. No, wait, how'd it go?
Turn That Frown Upside Brown. And you had what, Dennis?
I had the Louisville Slugger IPA.
Thoughts?
It's a fruity beer, smooth. It's a double hop, so it's a little bit creamier than your single hop, but good.
And Liz did not go with a beer.
No, it was happy hour, so I got myself a Moscow Mule, which is a very good summer drink.
Yeah, it definitely is. And how would you rate your Moscow Mule?
Oh, it's a good solid 8. It's very nice.
Yeah. And my brown ale, as a brown ale goes, I'd give it a 7.5, 8 too. It's fine for a brown ale.
Yeah, I'll be there too. 7.5, 8 with mine. So
We were so quick with the words here. Speaking of words, how's that for a transition? Our question today, we're going to be asking, what 3 words best describe you? So I personally think it's an interesting question. Why do you think it's a good question?
Well, I think it's one that people actually think about and prepare themselves for, because it's almost like an interview question that you might have for a job in some ways. So I think it can work that way.
I'm wondering if this is a good metric to reading someone's self-esteem, like the words that they use.
Right. Whether it be positive words, negative words, and why.
It'll be interesting to see where people are in their head about how they consider themselves.
Right.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's age related too. So everyone here is a lot younger than us.
Well, we're going to find out. Let's go ask the people.
your name is?
Sam.
Sam, good to meet you, Sam. I'm Dennis.
Nice to meet you.
What are 3 words that you would use to describe yourself?
That's hard. Sorry. Thinking about it. Energetic.
Energetic.
Intentional.
Intentional.
And loving.
Loving. All right, so let's start with energetic.
Yeah. I just have ADD. I've always had energy. I'm just like kind of a wild person. I just like have.
What's the most wildest thing you've ever done?
Oh, you know what? I don't know if I'm.
Legal.
Man, what? wildest thing I've ever done is, I mean, you know what? I might have to skip that question. Yeah, if that's all right. Yeah. I'll take the next one, though.
And so you said energetic, you said intentional.
Yeah.
Break that down for me a little bit. What does that mean for you?
It just means that you put intent and thought behind what you say and what you do. And I think that you should always be, I was raised in a place that it was think before you speak was the first thing that I was really told. And
now, who taught you that?
My dad.
Your dad?
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest lesson to learn as an ADHD kind of wild kid, but like I did start to take that in. Yeah, I like to have. Don't get me wrong. I like to be carefree, energetic, and wild. But like the things I do, the things that I put my energy into, and what I put into in my life, I like to have intention behind that.
So it's very deliberate,
thoughtful. Yeah.
Very deliberate.
Yeah.
Cool. And so the last one you said was loving.
Yeah.
Unpack that for me. What does that mean for you?
Well, it means that I think one of the most courageous things you can do is put love into this world in all different ways. I think that it is a hard thing to do, and sometimes in spaces where it can be the most, it could be the last thing that you want to do.
To love someone or to bring love into the world.
Yeah, to put love in a situation. Even like I've been around a lot of people that like just did not like me and like did not want to entertain reasons why they could. And so I think when I say I put love into this world, that's not saying forgiving them for their actions. That's just like I start with love. If you want to take it to another place, then that's fine. But that's more. It says more about you than it ever will about me.
Right. And so how do you find yourself bringing love into the world?
I'm trying to help my community. I try to help the people around me. Try and like be intentional with the people that are around me, and pour myself back into that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So energetic, intentional, and loving.
Yeah.
Those are pretty cool characteristics. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for the talk.
Your name is?
Caitlin,
And you are a?
professor at Sacred Heart,
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And you teach?
speech language pathology and communication disorders.
Incredible.
I used to work in the public schools
Where did you work?
up in Hartford.
Okay. All right. So you've been in the trenches.
Yes, I have.
I did Southbury, so not quite as trenchy.
No, it's all the
We
same.
had our
though.
trenches.
Yeah, it's all the same.
Yeah, they were there. What 3 words do you think describe who you are?
Daughter, sister, and dog lover.
Okay. Okay. So you're a daughter. So tell me why you chose that as your first word.
Well, I'm staying with my parents right now, so it's at the forefront of my mind.
Mhm.
I'm fortunate enough to still have 4 parents, 2 biological and 2 step parents.
Wonderful.
And I don't know, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for them.
Really good support system.
Very good support system.
And with Mother's and Father's Day coming up the way, you've got a little on
Very
your
busy.
plate. Yes. That's really good. And so then you said sister. So
Mhm.
how many siblings do you have?
So I have 1 biological sister and then 2 older stepsisters, a younger stepbrother, and a younger stepsister.
Okay, so you're kind of in the middle. And
Right
so
in the middle.
I'm a middle child too. So being a middle child, what do you think are your responsibilities or your blessings?
Tied very closely together. I think I am responsible for keeping everybody together, but then at the same time, I'm the one who's closest to everybody because I am in the middle.
That's an incredible perspective. I never even considered that. I love that. And your last one was dog lover.
Yes. So
Talk to me. I'm an animal lover like crazy. So
this is my little one. And that's definitely at the forefront. She just got diagnosed with lymphoma.
oh, I'm so sorry.
So we're going through chemo. And
She looks like a Lhasa Bisha.
very good. A Lhasa mixed with a King Charles Cavalier.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So she's a sweetie pie and,
That's a good mix.
she is a really good dog. Like,
Okay.
just a really good dog. And she's my first dog. She's going to be 10. And, this is part of having a dog.
Yes.
is, Unfortunately, they're never with us long enough.
They are not, and they love you their entire lives, and we are blessed to remember them our entire
Yes.
lives. So that's beautiful.
My mom and stepfather actually have a almost 17-year-old Shih Tzu.
That's very good.
Yeah, she has a stroller now
Yeah.
because she can't go for walks.
No,
But she likes to.
Yeah. So those 3 words, you feel that it's a well-rounded description of who you are.
Probably, though it is very external, related to everybody around me and not necessarily internal. But
Well, you're a middle child. I wouldn't expect anything less. Because it's kind of as a middle child, I'm a mediator. And I find myself, and as a teacher and you're a professor.
Also a mediator.
This whole mediation becomes it's more than second nature. It's a big part of who we are.
definitely.
So I'm not surprised they use that. So Caitlin, thank you.
You're welcome.
So much.
Jasmine. And I'm Mark. I have a question for you. I'd like to see how you'd answer. What would be 3 words that you think that would describe you?
Me?
Yeah, you. What 3 words would best describe you?
Outgoing, caring, and kind.
I love those 3 words. All 3 positive words, which is really super. By those 3 words, you're in the perfect spot right now doing your job. You're a hostess, right? So you have to have all those 3 qualities.
Yeah.
And were you born with those qualities, or did you learn them, do you think?
I mean, I say a lot of stuff you learn as you go. I definitely learned a lot from my parents, my mom. So I'd say like me being outgoing is definitely something I was born with, because there can be introverts.
Did your mom always say that you were always that way when you were young?
Yes, I was the hyper one. I was the one always talking to people, and I enjoy that because I'm not afraid to talk to people. People feel
I could
comfortable.
tell. You're talking to me now, so I see that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you said caring.
Yeah, that goes hand in hand with my mom. She's always raised us to be super kind to each other and caring. And
So your mom had a big influence on you.
yeah, she was a single mom. She raised us very well, me and my siblings. So
Okay, so you said you're caring, and you said that came from your mom as well. And what was the third thing you said? You said
Kind.
outgoing and kind. The kindness came from your mom.
of course,
With your kindness and your caring, does that have a higher meaning to you? Do you like have like a faith or something like that you need that you have these qualities, or is it just inherently who you are?
well, I mean, I like to stick those like.
So where do you attribute the caring and kindness from?
I mean, I feel like everyone deserves the respect, especially if you don't know them when you first meet them. Everyone should be treated with respect. Until they show you that they're not worthy of it, then that's the least you can do as a human being.
And when they're not worthy, do you treat people differently?
Sometimes. It
Okay, that's
depends.
fair. That's fair.
It depends on what they did and if they deserve it, but I try not to. I just try to stay calm, but sometimes it's really
And
hard.
if would you say your friends would say those 3 words are true about you?
Oh, definitely.
That's good. That's an awesome. I thank you for those responses. They're excellent. Hey, Liz, what have you got to say?
Oh, I have something for you. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, but if you throw it hard enough, it keeps everyone away.
Very good. And
Wow.
plus the fact that
I'm not
these are
feeling the Christian love there.
these are just spontaneous, right?
They are so spontaneous. That was number 11.
On the list of 12.
And number 45 on my list is the Druid of Devotion.
Druid. I'm uncomfortable with Druid. It's a
We did
pagan.
Druid last time.
Yeah, but not with devotion.
It's a pagan. No.
The
'cause it-
deacon of, I would the deacon of devotion.
I'll take deacon.
All right.
I'll
That's
take
good.
deacon.
I like that.
All right.
Druid was a little
You
too
shut that down.
progressive for me.
Yeah.
Deacon works.
Yeah, it's 5,000 years old of progress.
I had a question. We figured it'd be kind of fun asking people what 3 words best describe you. Our hope, I guess, was to get a little insight into their soul.
Mm.
3 words described and see where it flowed. Personally, I talked to Jasmine. She came up with 3 great words. She came up with outgoing, which she was, kind, and caring. And I thought there were 3 positive words. I really thought it was perfect. And she attributed her niceness and caring to her parents and specifically her mother. I really thought that was uplifting. And I asked her, was she designed with those 3 words to be a hostess? Because outgoing, kind, and caring is like, you got to be that if you're going to be that. I would fail miserably as a hostess, or a host for that matter.
Please don't
Go
be a
sit
hostess.
down.
Yeah. You can't find a seat. Is it that difficult?
There are restaurants that would actually you'd probably be great in.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting about your conversation was she was not your original target.
No, it was interesting because I had earmarked a person on the other side of the brewery. Now I was going over, I saw this girl and she was looking at me, as most females do, with a strange look on their face. I felt God saying, talk to her. I don't know if it was God or if it was the pizza I had, but we had a good conversation. And really, I really enjoyed our conversation. She was perfect. I know you, Liz, you talked to Caitlin.
Yes. She's very interesting. I loved her words. She said that she was a daughter, and she was a sister, and she was a dog lover. When I pressed her on, where is this coming from? And she started talking about, she has a blended family. And I said, are you a middle child? She goes, yeah, right in the middle. I'm like, yeah. So you're a mediator too. I mean, I said, I'm not surprised you're a professor, because it's this whole reaching out. She goes, all of my words are outward pointing. I'm like, that's
Insightful.
I said, yeah, it's very insightful, but it's also very common for people who grow up in the middle. And she goes, but so she's the bridge between the families. And I thought, first of all, that's just lovely.
Right.
It's really sweet. And then we got to talk about her dogs. I run into a lot of dog people out there.
You do.
I love it.
I think there's a magnetic field that connects when you walk in. Dog person. Whoop.
Oh yeah. Yes. Very happy to talk to all the dog people.
Yeah, she was very honest. And that was really neat. Then as you talked to Sam.
Yeah, Sam he's an energetic guy. And the fact that was his first word to describe himself was energetic. He called it ADD or ADHD, but he just had passion for life and for whatever he did. What I really thought was he used loving as one, and I think we all think we're loving, but the one word that struck me with him was intentional.
And,
oh, wow.
And so he tries to be, in even the smallest things that he does, to be very intentional with outcome and or perspective and or the way he's doing something. And I thought, wow, and he was a young guy. So intentionality it wasn't shocking to me, but I thought it was like, wow, that's a really hard focus, to be intentional, to feel like you're intentional all the time, or put yourself in that place.
Right.
That's someone who's very self-aware.
Yeah. Absolutely. And he was a great guy to talk to.
I was impressed because when I sat down and started thinking of 3 words, it took me a while. And these people were asking, they're coming up with these things pretty quick. And that's a lot of pressure. And they did a much better job than I would do. I know
like
that.
They all knew it in advance or something.
Yeah, right, exactly. So
question number 11 on our list.
this would be a good time to find out, all the hosts here, if we know each other as well as we think we do in Courtney. So my wife, married for a lot of years, hopefully we know each other fairly well.
A couple years.
Actually,
40.
Trying to think how long I've known you, Pastor. It's been 20 years?
20.
At least.
Yeah. Wow.
At least 20 years.
At least 20 years. So let's see how well we know each other. I asked them before we started the podcast to come up with the 3 words that would describe the other person. Let's start with Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's tell us.
Well, okay, you do one and I'll do one.
Yeah, now we'll get to all 6 words and see if we have any. So for Dennis, my first word is authentic.
I wrote principled.
I put ethical.
I wrote irreverent.
And I put empathetic.
And I wrote redeemed.
Right. How do we do?
Pretty good. I describe myself as passionate, teachable, and forgiving.
So in other words, nothing.
Nothing.
well, you didn't use the same words, but the same. It sounds like the same. Empathetic is kind of a forgiving thing, and I think forgiving. I describe myself as forgiving. That's kind of a quiet characteristic and attribute, because for me as a pastor, I have to maintain a thick skin and a soft heart, and forgiveness is the only way I can do that.
Yeah.
So I forgive people before they ever apologize, and that's very important for me.
Yeah.
So irreverent, I would not have used that, but I can't disagree with
I wanted to hyphenate irreverently reverent.
Right? I am. And I've been that way most of my life, let alone my pastoral career.
And authentic?
I hope to be. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely are.
I've been called authentic before. It's something I try to be. It's something I'm very aware about. I think it's a characteristic that when I was thinking of my three, I never thought of authentic. It just never occurred to me. And maybe that's just being authentic.
I felt principled kind of aligned with that word too.
Yep.
That's not bad. Liz, Dennis, you go. I had
write down.
let
me just write down what you said.
I had 5 words, but I had eliminated the 3.
Well, like I said, I had one of my words is 2 words, but Liz informed me that I can put a hyphen. And so I put well-versed. Well-versed, for me, well-versed is the next step above well-read. Well-versed for me is taking knowledge, taking facts, taking input, and just wrapping it into doing life normally. And that's where I see like some of the things you've said on this podcast, some of the insights that you brought on this podcast, some of the things you've quoted on this podcast, and then integrated into life. That's well-versed for me. It so goes beyond well-read.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
So being the husband saying anything now after that spiel.
What do you got, Mark? What do you got?
Nothing good, apparently.
I like her glasses.
The cute. Okay. The first word, I have 3. They're not in any order, but I had intelligent. And I wasn't as wordy as you for all those words. But,
well,
you can hyphenate intelligent.
Intelligenter.
So Dennis doesn't take 10 minutes explaining his next word. I'll say the second word.
All right, go ahead.
Creative.
See, I was thinking creative.
But you didn't say it.
I didn't say it because creative, I'm creative.
And you're saying Liz is not creative.
I believe Liz is artistic.
No, she doesn't like the word artistic. She got offended before when someone called her artistic.
That's not autistic, artistic.
Oh, that's why she got offended. I see.
And
you can hyphenate that too.
Artistic is taking creativity to a different level.
Nah, well, I put that in my second tier because I knew she didn't like that one. Someone said she's artistic. I thought that'd be a good. No one's ever called me that. I've been honored. All right, my last one. I have peacemaker.
That sounds very personal. Like family oriented.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. I put learner because you guys are continually pressing in to learn something new all the time. And whether it be podcasts, whether it be books, whether it be whatever you're doing, I see Liz as a hungry learner.
Those are some good words.
You guys, first of all, thank you. I feel very blessed. Well-versed. That was cool. Intelligent. I really appreciate that. And
she batted her eyes.
Mark is 100% right. Artistic, I kind of back away from that, but I do definitely feel like I am creative.
Well, I think that's just a humility.
Well, Dennis, in other words, she's saying you are wrong. And
no.
Well, no,
it's how it's interpreted.
Right. And I do believe artistic pushes creativity.
I know, and I will push back on that, but this is not the time or place.
And you'd be wrong.
Until you hear my pushback, you don't know.
And your third?
And then here are my 3 words: creative,
I like
reflective,
that.
which I think comes back with well-versed, and then mediator, which is the peacemaker.
Yeah.
So right on point. That was really good. Thank you. I feel blessed.
All right. Well, I always read this part. If you want to say some words about me.
Okay, I'll start.
Go ahead.
He is dedicated.
Okay.
So I was wrestling with words along that genre of dedication. I was thinking I considered myself passionate, and I'm like, Mark isn't passionate. Mark is intense. Like that's a step above passionate. So I called you like one of your character. You're intense. Like when you latch onto something, you will see it through until the very end, no matter who, what, where drops out around you.
That was my second word.
Was it really intense?
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right, cool.
And what's your?
My second word was scientific. And what I mean by that is you process everything.
Too much?
Not too much, but I asked you a question, how do I grow good cherry tomatoes? You went cliff notes on me, which was way beyond what I can comprehend, but it was all by trial and error. That you have trialed and errored and took notes and went through a scientific method to figure out how to grow the best cherry tomatoes.
You wanted Post-it note. He gave you cliff note.
Right. Okay. And so you've done that with your whole homestead environment where you've figured things out and trial and error, testing. So scientific, yeah.
And my final word, now I kind of cheated because this word has multiple meanings as far as you are concerned, Mark. Challenging.
Fair. I'll take it.
I think that you are definitely a challenging person to have an argument with. And also because you challenge people to be the best that they can possibly be. And I see both of those things. You are rigorous in those challenges all the time. And I think that's...
So why do you say that, Liz? Let's think about that now.
And my third word for you was the same as Liz, is you are a learner. You don't stop. If there's something new to be learned, you are at the cutting edge of that at all times. And those are the things that drive you, I think, to be who you are today.
Okay. It's funny.
What word did you have?
I put 7 down. The ones I took off were logical, complex, considerate, and prepared. So I didn't include those. I went with...
Except right now.
No, I went with words that you didn't, no one got from me, which I don't know what that means, but I got authentic. I'm pretty much what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I'm pragmatic, probably to a fault, but I am, and spiritual. I put that in there, but you didn't see any, none of you saw any godly qualities in me, but that's fine. It's something I can.
Well, it's things you can work on.
Apparently a lot. Well, enough with talking about ourselves, but I think it's interesting to come up with 3 words. So the next questions do not have anything to do with ourselves personally, but hopefully by now, if you're listening to this podcast, you must have paused and say, well, what 3 words would best describe me? And it's tough because you probably have a lot of words that you want to be said about you because you're probably not one-dimensional. But if you thought about those 3 words, and assuming that you've turned it off and now you're back on and you're all set, let's talk about what those 3 words can mean spiritually. I guess the first thing, do you think that are reflective to the people we asked versus ourselves, the people who are listening? Do these words reflect anything to do with a personal relationship with God, or should they at least?
As we talked about in our last podcast, we are created in the image of God. And I feel like these positive attributes, I think they do reflect God.
So if you're a learner, they don't have to, but if you are a learner, then you can use that for God's glory.
Absolutely.
If you're creative, you can use that for God's glory. If you're authentic.
Artistic.
Well, we don't like that word here. we went over that, Dennis.
Sorry. Forgive me.
I guess if these are the gifts that God gave us, then we have sharpened these tools and use them for God's work, both horizontally and vertically. So how does your faith actually shape the way you see yourself? So do you think if you were not a Christian, those 3 words you used, you'd still use them?
No. I remember before Jesus, I worked in Thomaston at a car dealership. I was a mechanic. And driving home on 84 from Waterbury into Southington is always a mess. There were cars passing in the breakdown lane. And I thought to myself, look at these a-holes. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm one of those. And so I decided to drive and so those are the words I use to describe myself, things like that. I'm just driving back and forth to work, like in cars whipping because traffic was and I'm like, I'm one of those. And I remember just thinking back in those days, I wore those derogatory terms like a badge of honor. And now I think, ew.
Now, did those terms, did they change because you tried to get them to change, or was that God working on you that changed them?
I would have to say that it was God working completely on them. And I can't say that I'm not one of those things that I mentioned before from time to time, but I will say that it's way, way less because we all have those moments.
Sure. This is like, it might hit home, but how do others' perception with you align with your self-view? Those 3 words, for example, for me, I had 3 words and you guys had 3 different words. If you want people to think, if we're to say, you don't think I'm generous, you don't think that I'm loving, and you think you are, is it their fault or your fault?
Wow. That's a challenging question. Yes. I mean, it could be both.
I guess you could be blinded by who you are, for one.
Yeah. And I think you guys as teachers, me as a pastor, sometimes you have to come down on people, call out wrong, and it feels unloving, but yet you're actually doing it for the better or for the good of the person, so there's that tension there.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, well, you're mean, well, my children always used to tell me I was mean and I should move to Texas.
No, yeah, we got told. Maybe not Texas, but yeah.
Yeah. Someplace
It's
south.
like, you're mean. I'm like, I'm not trying to be your friend.
Right.
I'm trying to keep you in a good place, hon.
Ethan used to say, dude, I'm not your dude. I'm your dad. Let's get it right.
What about you, Liz? What do you think if you had words and other people view you differently?
So it happens a lot to me, but I would put that on me because I'm an introvert. But I am working on it. That is like my goal this year, to reach out, and this podcast certainly helps, and realize, total strangers will tell us all kinds of stuff. What better than people that you actually want to get to know and spend quality time with, and then they'll come up with this lovely set of words too. And they'll learn that say creative and not artistic.
Well, yeah. Well, no, with Liz, I think a good point. I was saying, if you are an extrovert, you're going to wear your heart in your sleeve more. So who you are to others will probably reflect how you are inwardly. But introverts do a lot of stuff inside, and some of the stuff, it comes out awkwardly to others sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
it's perceived differently.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, when they give you that look, you go, "Oh, I did the thing."
yeah. So, and I guess in a view of God, are we honest with God? Would you think He would give us those 3 words that we give ourselves if He was looking at our lives, our communication with Him, our relationship with Him? Would He say to you, Dennis, that you're authentic, and the other words that you used?
I do. Ephesians talks about we are clothed with the righteousness of Christ. And so when God looks at me, He sees not sinful, broken, in need of Dennis. He sees His Son. And so those positive attributes that I see in myself and or other people see in me, I believe are a God-given perspective and a God-given gift that reflects Imago Dei. We are built in that image, and we all have a different, it's like a prism, we all have a different reflection of that image.
I was just wondering, I for fun, I put the words that I described myself. So what biblical character would have these qualities?
That's good. That's good.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think Grok was being very kind. So, but I put all those words, but it came up with Moses for me. It talked about.
Wait, so what words did you use?
Authentic, pragmatic, spiritual, prepared, stubborn, logical, complex, considerate. And it gave actually Bible verses for each and why.
Well, now I have to do that.
It was interesting. I'm not sure. I think, like I said, I think it was being.
With those characteristics, you can be Moses, you can be David, you can be.
Well, David's not my favorite. He did some terrible things.
He did.
And
but yet still like God.
I know.
A man after God's own heart. Which I think came down to the Absalom situation, that when he was being run out of his kingdom, when he'd been run out of his palace, he told his general, whatever you do, don't hurt my son. The son that persecuted him, chased him out. And I think, I have no biblical evidence for it, but I think that's what God meant.
It wasn't the time where he sent Bathsheba's husband to get killed.
Wasn't
so
that
he could
time.
have sex with her? Yeah.
It wasn't quite, or taking her as his mistress because he saw her.
Just to allay your fears that you are like David, I put my 3 words: creative, reflective, and mediator. And I got
David.
Moses.
Oh, you got Moses?
David. And Solomon.
I think you can't get any better of a lineage than that. I mean, come on.
Well, you wanted Jesus. Didn't you?
Well, I mean, that's what Gronk would say to me, but I didn't want to bring that up.
Right, and
just be awkward.
I would probably more align with good Solomon, not the crappy second half Solomon.
Not the womanizer Solomon.
I'm really terrible at that.
Now, you're not a good womanizer, Liz. Any last thoughts on words that we have for ourselves and our reflection to God?
I think we as people in general don't look at our positive attributes enough, and we always are considering the things that are broken, the things that we can do better, the things that we failed at. And we end up cursing ourselves. I'm stupid. I'm an idiot. Why did I do that again? Instead of speaking what God sees over us, authentic, passionate, and whatever those positive affirmations are. And it's not positive mental attitude. It's not some self-help thing. It's just the Bible teaches that our words have the power of life and death. I believe that's both spiritually, emotionally, and physically. And if we speak death over ourselves, that's what we'll suffer. But when we speak life, when we speak those positive words, when we speak the truth of who God sees us as, not who we see ourselves as, those are reinforcements to live the life that God called us to.
I don't think we're going to say anything
Nope,
after that. Well done, Pastor.
Very nice.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Tune in next episode when you'll hear Dennis say,
There's a table around the corner that has little pictures of cats with birthday hats on.
Hey, awesome listener. If you're enjoying our podcast, give us a little love, like, share, follow, and snag this episode for later. It's the easiest way to keep the good times rolling and make our day. You're the best. Thank you.